Aloha and welcome to Inside Hawaii Real Estate. I'm Will Tanaka with my co-host, business partner, and wife, Leonie Lam.
Thanks, Will. Together as full-time realtors, we are bringing you the latest in Hawaii real estate.
And today, we're so thrilled to welcome back an awesome member of our ThinkTech Hawaii family, Prince Dykes, a renowned financial educator and a visionary in the financial industry. So Prince is the founder and chief investment officer of Royal Financial Investment Group. He's also the founder and president of the Global Children Financial Literacy Foundation and author and host of an awesome show called The Investor Show. Welcome, Prince.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
We are so grateful to be kicking off the new year, 2025, together with you, Prince. So thanks for being with us. We're looking forward to talking about, financial strategies and real estate and investing. But we also have just welcomed in 2025. So we have the state of the economy on our minds. And lots happening this month alone with new administration coming in. And so we kind of wanted to get your take on where we're at right now with the U.S. economy, just sort of your take. And then, later on, hoping to talk about any positives that we might see this year, especially about things that we should be mindful of when it comes to real estate.
Now, the things were, when we look at the overall economy, we look at it from a macro standpoint. Currently, we're in a bull market. We've been in this bull market now for about 3 years. 2022, we kind of had the market kind of about dial back a little bit. But we're in this very unique space that you're mentioning where we have a new administration that's coming in. Everybody has this sense of euphoria that President-elect Trump is going to do. Everything is going to be wonderful for the market. Also, you have interest rates that are slowly dropping. Now, on the real estate side, they're kind of bumping up towards 7 nationally. But the Federal Reserve has been a little bit intriguingly kind of slowing down on the interest rate and started to cut interest rates at the end of last year. Now, also another interesting aspect we have this week that's coming up is the jobs report. Everybody has all their eyes on the jobs report. How's our unemployment looking? Are we having new jobs? Are people leaving jobs? Do we have job openings? Things like that. So right now, everybody's on the crust of their seats because we have a president-elect that I think we all would agree that we don't know what he's going to do. He may cut interest rates lower, and as he cut interest rates, that's great for the real estate market. Evaluation-wise, if you own real estate, it's a great time for buyers because they get lower interest rates. A great time for people who already own because usually the price kind of goes up, demand for real estate goes up. Also, when interest rates are cut, you also see the stock market kind of go up as well. But so we are kind of on our seats to see what this jobs report looks like because the jobs report will indicate what the Federal Reserve does. And we also know the Federal Reserve is ran by the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. He's the controller of our interest rates, right? It's not President Trump, but President Trump will have influence in a way to, by using this microphone to influence the Federal Reserve chair, but we don't know how that kind of looks. But I will say this is my premises. Me as a long-term investor, I know that it's like driving a plane and the plane has a bunch of money in the back. The money is my passengers. As I'm going forward, I believe there will be turbulence. Turbulence here, turbulence there, turbulence there. And in these pockets of turbulence is where I'm looking to take advantage of the market. But the market still right now has an upward trend. It's not going to continuously go up. I just historically, I have never seen a president come in and the market just go straight up. I don't know what's going to happen during this time frame. We know the president has had, President-elect Trump during the campaign trail had 2 assassination attempts, if I'm not mistaken, right? If that happens again to a president, that will cause jolts in the market. So right now, there's a lot of volatility that's can happen in the market because we're walking in with the president. We don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to cut interest rates? Is he going to bring in all his buddies like the Doge president, like the CEO of Tesla, Elon Musk? All they're just going to come in and run amok, and you're going to see Tesla jump through the roof. You're going to see cryptocurrency jump through the roof. I really don't know. But if I was a betting man, I will caveat this with saying I am very biased to the bullish side. I'm a very bullish person, meaning on the upside. When you look at the market historically over the next 30, 33 years, it's predicted the market will crash about 5 times. My brain looks at it and says, well, that means we're going to have 28 good years, right? So I like to predict and to play for the good years. In the downtime, we know the downtime of the market will come. Look at let's take my military career. From 2003 to 2023, the market went up 400%, right? From 2003 to 2023. We had the two big market corrections was 2008 when we talked about the real estate crash, and also we had 2020 when we had the pandemic crash happen as well. With all that commotion that happened, the market still averaged a whopping 20% throughout my military career. So I'm someone who's going to look at it and say, hey, if I have to look at the next 20 years, I'm going to be someone who's going to sit on the bullish side. Even though I know we will have things happen in between, there's always something that comes out of the blue, like a global pandemic, like the real estate market collapse. We saw in going all the way back to 87, 1929, something will always happen. The next one, we don't even know what it is. But when it does happen, I'm looking to take advantage of those pockets in the market.
I like how you're looking at the next couple of decades instead of the next 4 years.
Mhm.
And so you're saying, if you're a betting person, no guarantees, but in the next 4 years, people are always talking about possibly more foreclosures or there could be a crash. But you're saying there's some reasons why the housing market in Hawaii and nationwide likely will not crash within the next 4 years.
The reason is this. I learned my lesson when you look at 2008 real estate crash. Ask yourself and go back and look at the data. When did the real estate market crash before 2008, right? Did it crash in the 90s? Did it crash in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s? When did it happen before that? So when something
Possibly before we were all born. Yeah.
There we go, right? So what happens is this, and it happened to me. 2008, I was in the military. I saw the real estate market crash. And I said, oh my God, I probably was 22, 23 at that time. I said, oh my God, it made me very trigger shy to invest into real estate because I saw so many people lose real estate. The same thing happened in 1929 when we had the great market crash that led into the Great Recession. People did not invest into the market. There was no type of confidence, trust. Everybody worried about, oh, this is, the end of the world. We don't trust that thing anymore. Everybody had a story about how their mom, uncle, granddad, co-worker, cousin lost in the stock market. It was the same thing we had in '08. And what happens is that is a form of PTSD. To now, here I am thinking, oh, when is the next crash? Every time I see any inkling of something happening, oh, here comes the crash. Here comes the crash. Now, realizing that how sporadic that happened and how often does that happen. Not to realize that, hey, we were a part of something that hasn't happened before. So many people now in 2020, we had a pandemic. Everybody's looking for the next pandemic, right? Well, is that the pandemic? Is this going to be the pandemic? When was the last time we experienced a global pandemic like we had during COVID-19, right? So when you have those type of things happen, it builds this trigger shyness about the next thing. Instead of you realizing that, hey, this is an isolated incident, you think, oh, this is the next one. This is the next one. And I've seen it happen so many times. And me being 40 years old and hanging around some people with some little gray hair in their head and doing a lot of reading and research, that's when you can look at it and say, hey, These things often don't happen. For prime example, in my hometown, Augusta, Georgia, we got hit by a hurricane in Augusta, Georgia. Who would expect a hurricane to come all the way up to Augusta, Georgia? Now, instead of preparing for the next hurricane in Augusta, Georgia, you have to look and say, well, how often has that happened? What made this happen? Is this an isolated incident or this is the new norm? Many times when every asset class, the bubble will burst. When the bubble bursts, people think that this is going to happen again and again and again, right?
Right.
So that's something I want to put out to people. And then when I saw happen in '08, also in 2020, when the pandemic happened, when people couldn't work, if people couldn't work, they had no income, how were they able to pay their mortgages? And I saw how the government responded to that. And that's what let me know, hey, we'll probably never see this thing happen again. It's all contingent upon one thing that would change that. But I look at the tools the Federal Reserve deployed during that time frame that made me look at a crash totally different. Look at the tools the government came out and said, hey, no forbearance, nobody can foreclose.
Right.
Wow. I didn't know that was a law. Nobody can move out. What happened in '08, right? People lost their houses, people couldn't. But this time we saw the government come in and say, hey, here are PPP loans, here are stimulus checks. Don't lay people off from their jobs. It created remote work like we never seen it before. So I looked at the tools that were deployed during the pandemic. And then I looked back in 2008 when the market crashed. The tools did not exist back in 2019, 28, 29. We didn't have those regulatory tools where the government, the Federal Reserve can lower interest rates. Where was the Fed at that time? The federal government now can lower interest rate. It can pump money into the economy. It can cut checks. It can stimulate the economy. It can introduce something called forbearancy. Instead of having a foreclosure, now we have forbearancy. The government instituted that. So people couldn't lose their houses that we saw before. And if you have a government that can do that, and I would tell people my belief with the American economy is hinged upon, we can print money, we have a fiat currency, we can lower interest rates, we have all this debt across the globe. I've heard all the things. The U.S. economy, in my opinion, is backed by the U.S. military. When you have the biggest guns, you make the rules across the globe. If people say, hey, we're not going to take your currency, we say, oh, really? All right. Let's think about it, Will. If you have all the gold and I have all the guns, who do you think is going to win the argument?
The guns.
Exactly. So in America, we have all the guns. So that is what's backing up our U.S. economy. And if our military was ever to falter, that's when I would be more concerned and change my theory and philosophy.
Hey, Prince, that's an awesome perspective. And I always wanted to kind of really better understand the
hmm
federal rate cuts
hmm
as it parallels with mortgage interest rate cuts.
hmm
Because, I mean, even in the past last year, I think they cut the interest rate maybe 3 or 4 times, but it didn't necessarily equate to the mortgage interest rates. How do you explain that? And, for our viewers and even myself, I want to get a better handle on, okay, the feds are cutting the rate, but that doesn't necessarily mean interest rates for mortgage loans are going lower, right?
Yeah, that's the funny thing about looking at the interest rate society is, you know, uh, when the Federal Reserve come in and say we're going to cut interest rates, everybody gets the benefit and sell real estate for the most part. Real estate is kind of like sometimes they may go with the Federal Reserve and cut, and sometimes they might stay the same, or sometimes they might just go up as everybody's being cut, cutting the economy. So they don't go hand in hand. But the Federal Reserve has a greater influence because they control the rates that the banks get. And not all the time, just because the banks get a lower rate doesn't mean it's going to pass it on to its customers. It opens up the likelihood that someone out there may give a lower interest rate, but it doesn't directly correlate between the reserve, not reserve, but the real estate side. Real estate interest rates don't always go with the Federal Reserve. It's kind of like real estate is kind of like in its own little daily world where y'all wake up and like, oh, this is what we have. This is what we didn't get. So that's kind of the tricky part that I really don't have the answer of who's the magic hand. And I think it's really a conglomerate of just because the banks, when the Federal Reserve cut the interest rate, they have the wholesale price. This is the price they're giving to the bank. Doesn't mean the bank has to pass that on to the consumer. Because
Ah,
in real estate, when they have that, it's also dictated by the demand for houses. Who's out there looking, inventory. You have a whole nother demand sector versus me, a business owner who wants to refinance his loan, or someone who's trying to get a loan for their car. Also with the bank, that's the rate they get. Don't mean they have to pass it on, and sometimes they don't get passed along in real estate.
It's interesting regarding interest rates in our local market. In 2023, Will and I noticed, whether it was on our listings or buyers that we were helping, there were very little upgraders. So meaning like, people that own something that wanted to upgrade into a larger space. So in 2023, I think because of the interest rates, they had gone up, 6, 7% to 6 or 7%. We saw that upgrading market kind of just like pause, so maybe they were just like in shock, I think, that interest rates were no longer as low as they were in the past couple of years before that. And then last year, we started to see a resurgence of upgraders. And so it's like we felt like, and well, you can kind of, I don't know if you felt the same way, but it seemed like people kind of settled in and accepted like the 6.5, 6.8%, and we're able to kind of overcome, things. And I think another part of it is that our inventory here in Hawaii is so low. So, definitely when a house comes on, if it's a nice or decent purchase, we get multiple offers. And another thing we've seen this year is much less cash buyers. So on our listings, when offers come in, when it's multiple offer situations, very little all cash. Most people are financing.
Mm.
So just thought that was interesting, with regard to interest rates and just kind of how people are perceiving it, and that it's nice to see people are still kind of moving forward with it.
Yes, I see that as well. And you got to think about it. It was a time where back in 2020 where two, sometimes even 1% was the norm. And people got used to twos and ones and threes. So now all of a sudden when they're sitting six or seven, they're like, hey, I'm getting ripped off, right? A five, a four, because it became our norm, you know? And but when we look at the historic average of interest rates, a three or four or even a five is still a good rate, right? But when you're
right.
looking at present day, when everybody and their friends is getting 1, 2, and 3%, you know, um, the average person is probably not waking up watching interest rates on a daily basis like realtors are, right? So when people walk, like take me for example, I don't do the grocery shopping in my house. So I don't know what's a good sale. I walk into the grocery store, I buy something, I leave, and my wife is like, well, why did you buy that? That thing is that's $6. I'm like, okay, because I'm not watching it every single day, right? To know what a good deal is. So a lot of us became used to during the pandemic when the Federal Reserve was cutting rates and you saw rates cut in the real estate market. You saw people start to change. That became their norm. Now, my belief when I look at real estate, I think we're going to move into is two things that could shift real estate. Every asset class always blows up into a bubble, right? And the bubble always bursts. You always have the bubble burst, go so far that it bursts because everybody's telling you how much money they made. Well, I purchased a home for 500, sold it for 600, purchased one for 7, sold it for this. I made this money. Everybody rushes their money into it, and now we get overinflated. Then we get overinflated. Then the market will readjust itself. Or this is the other thing that will happen. I believe single family homes will become a luxury item. I think that a single family home is going to become luxury, and what people are going to be living in is probably something more like manufactured homes. Um, People are going to be have more maybe condominiums or something like that. There are these new ways they're looking at building homes cheaper now, but I think the traditional single family home for the next generation will probably become a luxury item. You look at how much a house costs today. Real estate on average compounds at 3 to 4% annually. You do the math, I think nationally an average a house is around about 400,000. In the next 20 years, I don't have my calculator in front of me, but the average house is projected to cost about probably around about $6,000 to $7,000. right? $600,000 to $700,000. What will the next generation be doing to be able to afford a $600,000 to $700,000 as their home? So now you,
Exactly. And just to add to that real quick, in Hawaii, the median sales price is 1.1 million and 500, that's for single family homes. And for condos, it's about 540,000.
so with that
Yeah.
being said, the average person, if they're lucky, will probably get a condo, and then the people that are luxury items will be something like single family homes. That's how I see it happen until we come up with a new way, maybe a cheaper way, maybe manufactured homes, maybe these things, these new ideas, these 3D printed homes they're looking at doing. These homes that are built by robots may come in cheaper. And I think that what we know today as single family homes will be luxury items.
I think it's definitely already happening in Hawaii for sure, where
Exactly.
even,
Especially at the median price is 1.1.
yeah, I mean, a lot of times, people get financial help from family members,
Hmm.
or yeah, the first purchase is going to be a condo.
Hawaii's just in front. Hawaii's just in front of the nation, or what's going to become. Where they're going to be, wow, that's people are going to be, I'm seeing these things like 3D printing, manufacturing, homes, things like that, tiny homes. Now you can get these little tiny homes out of Home Depot for like $30,000 or $40,000. People are going to buy a piece of land and get a tiny home. I think the traditional single family home is going to be a sign of wealth, luxury item type thing.
And in terms of affordable housing is such a hot topic in Hawaii. And I'm sure we're many parts of the mainland as well, and maybe that's part of the solution, these, manufactured homes or tiny homes. I think we've heard about it. It's not very expensive here in Hawaii yet, but they have started building those tiny homes and the 3D where the homes where you could get it from Home Depot. I haven't seen it yet, but for 30,000, yeah, I mean that would be a very welcome idea
Because
over
I mean,
there.
think about it, if you're a child and you're 18, 19, or you got your first job, I mean, getting your single family home, what are you going to do? You got to think about it. Here's a big thing you got to pay attention to, Will, is what is the average income in Hawaii? You know, an average
Yeah,
income in Hawaii is probably medium household income, maybe 60, $70,000. How in the world, and then
right,
how
yeah,
are you going to afford a $1.1 million house? So alternatives have to come in. Something has to come in into play. This is when entrepreneurs come in and say, "Hey, you know, we have this $50,000 home you could get from Home Depot and get it installed, and hey, this is your first home." And or
yeah.
manufactured or 3D printed homes. They're going to be. We just can't continue on this particular path with income because our income is not keeping up with people to be able to afford these. It's going to be who you're going to be selling to.
We know that you're really committed to, you mentioned about, children and the next generation, and we know you're really committed to educating financial literacy. And so when you do that, and, what are what would be some of the top three like pieces of advice or guidance that you share with like the next generation or the children that you educate?
5 kids.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we have
Congratulations.
5 kids. Yeah. So it'll be good to know.
The first thing is start the children as young as age possible. That's why we target children. The way to change the future is to teach the children, teach the kids to change the future. The earlier we get kids involved, the better. So, I've written 4 children's books. The first one being about Wesley Learns to invest, teach him to invest, building a custodian account to increase his time horizon. We know every kid going to kindergarten, we're talking about it right now. How are they going to be able to afford a home by the time they are 25? Right? We all know this. They're going to need a house, they're going to need a car. What are we doing about that now? We live in the most robust economy in the world, and you can grow up in this economy and not know anything about it. So, and your kids can be invested, but they only could be invested unless the parents do it. So the big thing is start teaching the kids now about investing. Number two, start building their credit now. Parents can add their name onto their credit cards, open up a bank account for them, start building their credit now. Number three, getting insurance for them. Get them a small life insurance policy for them at the youngest age. Right now, it's very cheap, right? They have no medical conditions. They're 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 years old is rather cheap versus waiting until you're 45 years old and you smoke cigars. So, um, getting at the youngest age possible. Number four, real estate. When people think about real estate, they think about you're going to buy a house. I can't afford a house. I barely can afford a house myself. Most Hawaiians are thinking, man, look, a condo costs $500,000. A house costs $1 million. Well, have you looked at land in Mississippi? Have you looked at land in Georgia? Have you looked at land in Kentucky? Now, you don't have
Mhm.
to look at land in Hawaii. We have this wonderful tool called the internet, which will allow you to contact realtors from anywhere around the globe that you can look to purchase land for children now. And also with that, real estate is one of the only asset class that has a value when the market is down. Most things right now, if the stock market crash, all you can do is just sit there and look at them and wait, and hopefully they rebound, right? If your business has a slump, all you can do is just sit and wait until it rebounds. Where real estate, if it has a slump, at least I can live in the house while the market is picking itself back up. Or with land, your kids, if you purchase a small acre, a half acre, you don't have to get an acre downtown LA or downtown Honolulu. Maybe it could be in Georgia, more rural areas. Georgia, South Carolina, those areas will develop over time. And you can do that online for your child for their birthday. Hey, there's land in Arizona in the desert going for $500, $1,000, $2,000. That's relatively affordable, and it gets your children, it diversifies their portfolio into real estate, and it hedges inflation. How can the price of goods and services go up without the value of land going up? So they go hand in hand. So this is something that I take the parents and say, hey, parents, we got to start even earlier. The industry is
Mhm.
geared towards repairing. We want to repair the credit. We want to help you get into this. We want to repair. Once you, oh, you've gone into bankrupt, we want to help you do this in XYZ. Who thinks about preventing? How did this person get to this point? What if I started an investment account for them at the youngest age? What if I get them their insurance policy? What if I get them a small piece of land that they can grow up and utilize for themselves, grow something on it, sell it, or use it as collateral in a business venture? So these are things that I tell parents we have to start at the youngest age possible. And our ultimate goal is to have every kid have an investment account by the time they hit kindergarten.
Prince, when are you coming to Hawaii? Our
Hawaii,
kids need, yeah.
yes, I definitely is a second home for me. Spent 3.5 years there. When I served in the military, I retired. I was in Pearl Harbor for a while there, and I always love Hawaii. I don't know the next time I'll be back, but I
I was gonna
definitely
say our kids and all the kids and parents need to talk to, we call
Uncle
everyone
Prince.
uncles, right? So Uncle Prince.
Uncle. Yes. So, and that was the thing, while I was in the military, went to school and earned my MBA while I was in, and I was in my late 20s, and I said, man, wow, America, what are we known for? We're known for capitalism, making money, and all these things I'm learning. Nobody taught me how to write a checkbook. Nobody taught me how to and taught me what the S&P 500 is, anything. And this is what our country is known for. That would be like you grew up in Hawaii, you don't know about the Dole plantation. You don't know about pineapples, anything like how do you don't know about you grow up there, right? So here in America, we have the most robust economy in the world, and we're contributing to the economy every day. We're buying the Apple iPhone, we're on Google, we're on Amazon, everything. All the kids know what Amazon is, all the kids know what Facebook and Instagram is, all the kids know all these products come Christmas time, holiday season. We contribute to all these companies. We watch Netflix all day, all these things. But not one time nobody thinks on the reverse end, what if I get you a couple of shares of Amazon, a couple of shares of Facebook, a couple of shares of some of your favorite companies because kids are the future. And I'm not saying that I want to turn my son into the next Warren Buffett, but I want to do a little bit better than I had with him. And then
Mhm.
my job to him is, hey, you do a little bit better. And when we all do a little bit better, the world does a little bit better.
That is a mic drop.
Hmm.
That's how we want to end it. Wow. You're so inspirational, just amazing. We would love to have you back in the future.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for making the time, Prince.
Definitely thank you for having me on and anytime, and glad to see my Think Tech family back in Hawaii.
Thank you so much, Prince.
Thank you.
Thank you and aloha.
Aloha.